Hello and welcome. In this session, we're diving into a question that I bet every single one of us has asked. Where does the time really go? We're going to explore work sampling, a fantastic technique that swaps out guesswork for hard data, and I'll show you exactly how to turn those observations into actions that create real, meaningful improvement. Here at Bodhi Unified Flow, our mission is pretty simple. We simplify complexity to amplify performance. And the tool we're going to talk about today, work sampling, is a perfect example of that philosophy in action. So let's get right into it. You know, it's that nagging question that pops up on pretty much any project, right? You look at the clock, you look at the schedule, and you just can't help but wonder, where does all the time actually go? What's the real story that the timesheets aren't telling us? And this chart? Man, it paints a picture that's probably all too familiar. You've got your productive work, the stuff that directly adds value. Then there's supportive work, planning, logistics, the necessary evils. But look at this big chunk right here. Hidden waste. That's the real kicker. It can be almost a third of your day just vanishing into thin air. And let me tell you, that is a gold mine for improvement. So here's our game plan for today. It's nice and simple. First, we're going to define this mystery of wasted time. Then I'll introduce you to the powerful diagnostic tool that solves it. We'll walk through how to actually conduct a study, and then, the most important part, how you turn that raw data into insights that actually fuel continuous improvement. And by the time we're done here, you're going to walk away with a solid grasp of what work sampling is all about. You'll see how it's different from other methods, and you'll have a practical playbook for running a study and using its findings to power a real engine for change in your organization. Okay, let's jump right in. First up, the mystery of wasted time. You know, this quote really hits the nail on the head. In industries like construction or manufacturing or even healthcare, efficiency isn't just a nice to have, it's everything. It's how you stay competitive, how you protect your margins, and how you stay in business. And since on-site labor is often one of your biggest line items, figuring out how that time is really being spent is absolutely crucial. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? How do we crack this case? Well, that brings us right to our second section, where I'll introduce you to a really powerful diagnostic tool. The tool we're talking about is called work sampling, and really, at its heart, it's a pretty elegant statistical method. Instead of the old-school approach of standing over someone with a stopwatch for hours on end, you take a whole bunch of random, split-second snapshots of what people are doing. The logic is simple, but powerful. The percentage of snapshots that show someone doing a certain activity will give you a super accurate estimate of the total time they spend on it. And if you're wondering why this is such a game changer, just look at how it stacks up against traditional time studies. The old way, it's expensive, it's intrusive, and frankly, it can make people act differently just because they know they're being watched. Work sampling, on the other hand, is way more cost-effective and much less disruptive. It's perfect for complex, non-repetitive work, like on a construction site, where tasks are constantly changing. All right, so we get the what and the why. Now it's time to roll up our sleeves and get into the how. Let's talk about actually conducting a study. Now, the first thing you have to do, and honestly, this might be the most crucial step of all, is to create what's called a taxonomy of work. You need to sort everything people do into clear, distinct buckets. Typically, this means three main categories. Productive work, the stuff that directly creates value. Supportive work, things that are necessary but don't add value themselves, like setup or travel. And then there's non-productive work, which is just pure waste. Waiting, rework, looking for tools, you name it. Now, if you want your study to actually mean something, you got to get a few things right. We already talked about setting up clear categories. After that, your observations have to be truly random to avoid any bias. You also need to collect enough data points to make sure your results are statistically sound. And these days, using a tablet or an app makes capturing all this information incredibly easy and efficient. Okay, this next part is where the magic really happens. See, collecting data is one thing, but data by itself is just a bunch of numbers. Section 4 is all about turning that data into real, actionable insight. I just love this quote. It perfectly sums up what we're trying to do here. Reporting data is passive. It's just telling you what happened. Hey, we spent 35% of our time on wasteful activities. Okay, great. But generating insight, that's active. That's the detective work. That's getting to the why it happened. Let's make this real with an example. Say we just ran a study in a prefabrication workshop. We get the results back and wow, a whopping 35% of the time is just waste. Now, our knee-jerk reaction might be to blame the workers, but that's almost never the real story. We need to dig deeper. So how do we get to the bottom of this? We use a super simple but unbelievably powerful tool called the 5 whys. It's like being a detective, just asking why over and over again to peel back the layers of the problem until you find its true source. Okay, why, number one, why is all this time being wasted? We look into it and find out, well, the workers are just standing around waiting for materials to show up at their workstation. Okay, interesting. That's layer one. But we don't stop there. Why? Number two. Okay, so why are they waiting for materials? The answer? The forklift that's supposed to bring them the stuff, it's never around when they need it. Now we're getting somewhere. It's not a material shortage, it's a logistics problem. We're getting warmer. Let's go one level deeper. Why number three? So why isn't the forklift available? And what we discover is that it's constantly getting pulled away to unload trucks that just show up out of the blue with no warning. Aha, the plot thickens. And that right there is our root cause. It has nothing to do with the workers in the workshop. The real problem is that the receiving department has no formalized schedule. Everything is chaos, and that chaos is rippling downstream and starving the production line. See? We went from blaming a person to finding a broken system. That's the leap from data to insight. Finding that root cause, that's the big aha moment. But, an insight is useless if you don't act on it. And that leads us to our final critical section, driving continuous improvement. This diagram really says it all, doesn't it? Continuous improvement isn't a project with a start and end date. It's a loop, a cycle. You observe, you analyze, you implement a change, and then, and this is so important, you go back and measure again to see if your fix actually worked. It's a nonstop, virtuous cycle of getting better every single day. And the great thing is, we've got a whole suite of lean tools to tackle these problems. So for our forklift mess, we could use something called value stream mapping to map out the entire delivery process and pinpoint the bottlenecks. From there, we could implement standard work for the receiving team to create a predictable, efficient schedule. These tools are the how that lets us turn our why into real, lasting change. Okay, let's wrap this up and hit the highlights. What are the key things to remember from all this? So think of it like this. Work sampling is your X-ray machine. It's a cost-effective way to see what's really going on inside your operations. It gives you the hard data. Then the 5 whys technique, that's your magnifying glass. It helps you zoom in past the symptoms to find the real disease, the root cause. And when you put those two together, you lay the foundation for a powerful culture of continuous improvement, one that's all about fixing the process, not blaming the people. So we've covered the what, the why, and the how. That mystery of wasted time, it's not so mysterious anymore once you know how to look for the clues. So the only question left is, now that you have the tool, what hidden waste are you going to uncover first? Just so you know, the ideas we talked about today are built on some solid research from folks like Freivalds and Meeball, Almstrom and Canander, and others. Thanks so much for joining me.